Hey, everybody, this is Jonathan Ogden, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
Hey, Bruin fans, this is David Singleton, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show. Go Bruins.
Hey, this is Wayne Cook, and you're listening to What's Bruin Show.
Hey, guys, it's Chris Johnson, UCLA national champion. I need y'all to listen to the What's Bruin Show. These dudes are off the hook.
This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Merrifield, and I'm joined by my good buddy, Mike Regalado from Bruin Report Online. Here he is right now. Hey, Mike.
What's up, Jake?
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing.
What's going on?
Bro. My button's...
It's been a weekend.
Hi, bro. Yeah, I know. Hi, bro. It has been a weekend. Bro. It's been a good weekend for you. You went to Oasis, right?
It's been a moody weekend, Jake.
Okay.
It's been a moody weekend.
I see that.
Yes, I went to Oasis.
I love it, Mike.
Today is gonna be the day they're gonna throw back to you.
That's good, Mike.
By now, you should somehow realize what you gotta do. And here's what you gotta do. Don't listen to me when I make goddamn college football predictions. I'm
banning. I don't want to predict.
I picked.
Yeah.
I picked UCLA to go 8-4, and they are already 0-2.
Mike,
but they're. I see where Deshaun Foster's coming from when he says they were close, and obviously he did clarify that, which we talked about last week. He was close in the fact that there were certain parts of the game which they were close to executing. Now, were they close in the game at Utah? No. Were they close in UNLV? Well, definitely not the first half, and we're going to get into all of that. But Jake, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But that second half, though, I have things to say, but yeah, anyway.
I'm glad, and I'm despondent and depressed, and I don't know if I've ever been more depressed about UCLA football, just as a fan or a person who decided they want to talk about this in their spare time and all that stuff. And we'll definitely get into that in a few minutes. We're not quite there yet. It is the What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show network. Thank you for your support. Email is whatsbruinshow@gmail.com. I got calls here too. I'll probably do that segment. I'll do that segment later on. I'm not sure exactly how many we haven't even looked. And so, but patreon.com/whatsbruinshow, the Substack, whatsbruin.substack.com, if I didn't already say that. Search us up on YouTube. Just search What's Bruin Show and look for the UCLA stuff. And then we have the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, second round.
4WBS, second round try.
Yeah, 4WBS.
But yeah, Jake.
Yes.
I did go to Oasis. It was a game time decision.
That's awesome.
I went. I missed Cage of the Elephant, but I was like,
boo.
This is a once in a lifetime show. I was there with 90,000 of my closest friends, and literally I thought once I got there, I was like, God damn, the Rose Bowl has not been this filled, at least in a football game.
In a long time, right?
In a long time. And I'm looking around, I was like, this place is effing packed. And it was like, I'll talk about it more in my What's Bruin, but it was basically the best karaoke night of my life. I'll just say that. But yeah, so I guess the Rose Bowl is busy working on some new grass, which, hey, if that helps UCLA, which I think it does this week, that's great. But yeah, it was a whirlwind of emotions this past weekend.
Certainly, especially, I didn't think of that, Mike. You were being at the Rose Bowl when it's a packed house, seeing an awesome show relative to what it was like last week and what it's going to be like this coming week.
No tarps.
Well, yeah.
No tarps either.
Yeah. Those guys they better start installing those tarps. Like, they should just carve out space for about 5,000 fans. That's about all that's going to be there this week. It's going to be very sad. But we'll get more to that in a minute.
Yeah, especially with Ben Bolt stat adjustments. Yeah. So.
Oh God, yeah. No, I'm just telling you. I mean, that opener was relatively depressing. Just and I can't imagine this game being.
And this is a Friday.
A Friday
in Friday LA traffic
against New Mexico at 7 p.m.
Which doesn't have. I mean, they barely have a functioning website for their football team. Like, I think the last time it was updated was for their season opener. And I'm not trying to get on New Mexico. It's just a small program. It's 1-1. There's not a lot of buzz for this week.
Yeah, to say the least. Right. Okay. So, anywho, Mike, do you have any bro affiliate headlines before we move on?
No. Yeah, check out the women's basketball Instagram because they're basically doing karaoke and making life fun and realizing, that it's awesome to be a Bruin. So yeah, there's that. But no, other than that, no.
Okay, very good. So that's good. Look at the ladies basketball Instagram. That's our PSA for the day, and we'll get right into the football talk.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, California, hood, hey! Football.
Sometimes it's hard to be a Bruin. Giving all your love to just one team.
Now, Mikey, last week when we played Utah and we got crushed by them 43-10, I played the song that so far I've recorded, the demo version of Sometimes It's Hard to Be a Bruin, the full-length song, and we're going to finish that at some point. Like you just heard Mike on the guitar, so we definitely can finish that at some point. I'm not going to play that anymore for the time being because that song is a hopeful song, and it's a rallying cry song that I wrote because I commiserate with my fellow Bruin fans and like, I in that spirit of, yeah, we just took a tough loss, but, hang in there and things will get better. And that's just not how I feel right now. And so I'm not going to play that on our air right now. You might feel that way, Mike. And, and maybe when we get it recorded, we'll feel more like playing it. But for the time being, we're just going
I don't feel like that.
I don't know what you feel like, Mike. We're going to talk about it right now. Like, we're going to talk about it.
Yes.
What I'm saying is I'm not playing that song, that song that is our hopeful rallying cry that we're pouring into the UCLA universe. Because that's not how I feel right now, and so it's suspended until further notice. I thought we were gonna be able to use our cool victory song at some point, which I still have to write and I still have to record. But there's no point in doing that now, right? I mean, we're not, for the time being.
Well, that's probably why they haven't
2.
won because you haven't written the song, Jake.
Yeah, maybe that's what
I sent you that beat 2 weeks ago.
That is true, Mike. I will work on that.
And here we are.
What do we really need to work on it for? Rousing victories, we hope, over New Mexico and Northwestern. Those aren't guaranteed.
On the path to victory.
Yeah, I hope. Anywho, Mike.
Oh, wait. Wrong fight song.
The Bruins lose to UNLV in a game
Go Birds.
at Allegiant that, thank God, I did not go to this game because I almost went to this game. I was
thinking about that. I was like, would he text me to say if he actually did and you didn't? So I'm like, he didn't go.
No, I did not go. I did not go. I watched it here at home while I was cooking, and I had a nice time at home right before my wife ended up getting sick, which is why you're on the phone right now, Mikey, because my wife has COVID. But thank God I didn't go to this game in which the Bruins were down 10-0 after 1, down 23-0 at one point before going into the half down 23-3. I can't imagine, given the stakes for this coaching staff and the program in general, and coming off of the loss they came off of, a more worst case scenario sort of performance than the first half they had against UNLV. And of course, they crawled their way back, and they only gave up one score to UNLV in the second half, and that's commendable to the defense that they did that, and they put 20 points on the board. But you know what? When you go down 23-0 to a Mountain West team, you don't really deserve to come back and win that game. If you do, you're lucky. And we saw this all across the country too. You saw Clemson losing a game to a vastly inferior opponent, and they came back and won the game, but that wasn't guaranteed for them. And for the Bruins, this one, God, I wish they would have won. But once you go down that far, there are no guarantees, and you have to make every play. And they made almost every play down the stretch, but they had one big bonk up, and that was Nico Iamaleava's interception at the right at the end that sealed the deal for UNLV, and that would have just given them the opportunity to tie or maybe convert for 2, and that's only because UNLV, bonked their field goal, in the first half. There's a lot of things that went wrong for the Bruins in the first half, and then the second half they kind of turn it around. But that's okay when you're playing Texas A&M. That's okay when you're playing Wazoo and you come back from 60 points down because DTR ends up going nuclear. It's not okay against UNLV. Okay, this is one of the most dreadful losses I can remember ever ever, ever, ever as a Bruin fan. And I want to take a few moments right now just to set the table for our conversation by talking about what are our worst memories as Bruin fans? What are the worst losses we can remember? I talked to
I have many losses.
We've suffered through so many losses.
This isn't one of them.
Okay, well, and I appreciate you don't feel that way about this one. I certainly do, but I want to put it in the context of some of the other bad ones. So, anyways, I
will wait for my retort, Jake.
That's fine. I solicited you and the Godfather Jim Bendat, the knower of all things sports, and Jamaal, our good friend Jamaal Artis, about what are the worst losses you can remember in your UCLA history. The Godfather threw out one that I have no recollection of because none of us were alive at the time, and it was a loss to Illinois.
I saw that. I was like,
and I imagine it was a bad loss.
Jim, I know you were probably 70 at the time, but we weren't born. No, Jim is fantastic. He's just been around for a long time, and he's well traveled, has an amazing. And I'm saying this because he's listening. But no, I'm serious. His college football program library is insane. Yeah, just a very impressive collection of knowledge that he brings to us. But yeah, one of those stats was like, what was it, like in the 40s? I was like, wait a minute, I wasn't alive then.
It wasn't that far back, but it was pretty far
although
back.
If you want to go really far back, there was one time where Stanford beat UCLA like 70-0, but that was like in UCLA's second year of existence. Not UCLA, the football programs, but in our lifetime, we're talking about our lifetime, and there are a lot. So.
Well, anywho, neither of us can comment on that from real memory, but he's talking about the 1947 Rose Bowl game in which the Illinois Fighting Illini beat the Bruins, kicked the Bruins' ass 45-14, and that was a Bruin team that came in 10-0 and heavily favored. So that's what he's talking about. I don't really know too much more about the game other than that, but that was on his list of most like despicable Bruin losses, I suppose. Mike, all the other ones that I have in my memory banks are all ones since I've attended UCLA. Of course, the first one and the biggest one in the history of my life is always going to be 1998, UCLA loses to Miami, 49-45. I am kind of, this is not where my mind was pointed when I asked the question to you guys this morning, but then Jamaal pointed it out, and that was certainly one of his. And it's like, that will always be my most painful loss. The Bruins are on the cusp of going to the very first ever, BCS title game for chance to have the national title. But for a rescheduled game because of a hurricane in Miami, Edge James runs for a school record, I think ACC record, 299 yards. Just absolutely one of the most miserable things. I literally almost threw a TV through a plate glass window. I was so mad at that game. And I was in Sherman Oaks on Fulton Avenue. And that one is always
that was a great place.
It just scarred me for life. And that is a rough one. Do you have what was one that you thought of, Mike?
God, there are many. Are we going to go back and forth, or should I name off a few?
Just give me one.
Okay, the one that really sticks out, 50-0.
Yeah.
It's not the most points anyone has put up on UCLA, but especially that year during the new Heisel era, when they're trying to make a difference, it's just nothing's working.
This is 2011.
And then they wore those surrender whites, which never again. And let's be clear, it wasn't. And I'm not counting the script because you got to see the name of the team somehow, but it had that blue collar, but still it was pretty much all white. But they had started the tradition of doing both teams having home colors during the rivalry game, and they still had one more game after that. They couldn't have done these specialty uniforms after that. It was just such a weird game. It was just brutal. And it was like just a pounding.
Matt Barkley threw 6 touchdowns
after so many freaking years of getting wrecked by USC. But and just really quickly, I want to throw in there another one that hurt was the start of that. So UCLA has the record in the series for the longest streak with 8, I believe. And USC was close, but the start of that, and I was there at the Coliseum in 1999. Where you
that was terrible. 21-0. Wasn't it 21-0?
17-7.
Oh, that's not
17-7. But it was just the way that that game came down to the wire, and it was just it was the end of a streak, which for UCLA to have the record of most games won in this series, considering that they're down by 20 in this series, that was a huge thing. So to lose that first one, I was
Yeah,
like,
that was a bad one.
but in hindsight, knowing that was the first game in USC's charge to try to get to try to retake the most wins streak, yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the game in 2001 that was 27-0. That was about as deflating of an SC loss up until 50-0. Yeah, that was a pretty brutal one. Absolutely, Mike. Okay, well, so we have 2001 SC, we have 2011 SC. Geez, a decade apart, those two losses. A little symmetry there.
Yeah.
I also have on my list two from 2004 and 2005. The 2004 one, I'll say that to the end because that's probably, other than this game, this is the most like that game that I can remember. But 2005, one of the many trips. Why playing Arizona? Why playing Utah is a generational scar for me and my family. 2005, I was in Tucson for them getting their asses handed them 52-14 to the Wildcats of Arizona. Willie Tuatama had like 519 yards. That was a great team, but they got waxed.
Wasn't that the game where it was a new Heisel team and then a fight broke out?
It was not a new Heisel team.
Like
it was not a new Heisel team. That was a Durrell team, and it was
okay.
That was the one where they
Oh no, yes, that's right. Yes, I know exactly. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I know exactly what game you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's just
they were doing well
until they weren't.
Yeah,
but no, that's just one of those ones. It's like you come back from Tucson, everything hurts because you go out there to get your ass kicked again. And of course, the Bruins, I have to mention, the reason I was out there is because they were 8-0 at that time. And that was the first L they took, and that was just so deflating. And they ended up losing to SC 66-19 that year. The Arizona game hurt more, in my opinion, than that stupid drubbing to SC, because SC was number one in the country at that time.
Yeah.
So then we have the Arizona game, and then always tough when that Stanford Death Star was starting. Andrew Luck beats old Dickie Breho and Kevin Prince 35-0 at the Rose Bowl in 2010. That was another pretty bad one that I can think of.
What was the name of that receiver that got that crazy ass reception? Something tree? Roundtree? Crabtree? I don't know. But I was like, UCLA was going to win that, and
well, they weren't going to win that game.
About?
No, 35-0. Andrew Luck smushes them, and we have Dickie Breho and Kevin Prince at quarterback.
Yeah, those were the days.
These are big, bad, ugly losses. What we're talking about. And then I also have 2008 59-0 loss to the BYU Cougars.
BYU, that was
Harvey Unga, Austin Collie lead that team against a bunch of nobodies from UCLA at the time. It was not fun. And then probably the loss that hurts me like this one does. And I'm not saying it's the worst loss the Bruins ever faced, but it was one of the more embarrassing losses. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of these in the last 2 decades. These things, first time for this team to do this and that and the other. And UCLA's on the end of that stick a lot of the times. I was there in attendance. Did you go to the 2004 Las Vegas Bowl, Mikey?
No, I did not. I saw that one from home.
It was cold. It was ugly. It was windy.
Jerry.
The Bruins lost to the Wyoming.
Was it worse?
Was
it worse? Was it worse than the nearly Shirley breakup bowl of was it 97?
That was the Silicon Valley Classic, I want to say. That was against the Bulldogs of Fresno State, where the night ended with a bunch of Bulldogs barking at us. Yeah, that was that the Classic?
And the Shirleys, the Shirley family almost never happening.
Yeah, exactly. Bill and Stan almost got divorced on that trip. That was another horrible, dreadful loss. But Wyoming was worse than that. In Wyoming, somebody named Corey Bramlett, another guy named Joseph Harris, another guy named Tyler Holden beat a Bruin team that had Drew Olson, Maurice Jones-Drew, and Mercedes Lewis. How in the hell does that ever happen, right? And yet it did. They lose 24-21 to the Cowboys in the Las Vegas Bowl, and it's certainly, and then pretty much back to back, because that Silicon Valley Bowl was the year before that, I believe. 2 of the most depressing losses that I can imagine, and that's what that was. And that's kind of brings around to this game, Mike. And I know you aren't nearly as upset about this loss as I am, I don't think. And I think part of that is because maybe they came back and looked a little better or whatever, what have you, But
I'm a progress guy. It's a flaw.
that's fine. But this UNLV team, in my opinion, like
No,
the reason
Jake.
I wasn't so
No, Jake.
what the reason I wasn't so upset about the Utah loss, even though it was terrible, like it was bad to watch, it was terrible. Like I think Utah is going to be a pretty darn good team. I don't think this UNLV team is very good, and I thought the Bruins were so bad to go down 23-0 to this team. This UNLV team in the games prior to this, in the first two games, where they're 2-0, but they were playing Farley. Not as good competition, Idaho State and Sam Houston. They gave up 6 plays of 30 yards or more going into this game. UCLA managed 2. Both of them were runs. The longest pass UCLA had in this game was 21 freaking yards. Idaho State had a 30-yard run and passes completed of 64, 34, and 2 24-yard passes. Okay? Sam Houston had a 27-yard run and passes completed of 49 and 32 yards. And it's like UCLA could not manage to do anything explosive against a UNLV defense that's not very good, in my opinion.
Okay, let me really quickly. What do you define as explosive?
Well,
because I have a stat here that's pretty. I quite liked it.
Mike,
what's an explosive play? 20 plus?
We can do 20 plus. That's fine. A pass play needs to be over 25, 30 yards.
Okay, so how impressed are you by this though? In this game, UCLA had 4 players that had a 20-plus yard run. That hadn't happened since 2023 against North Carolina Central, especially considering that the running game was non-existent against Utah. And the first half, the fact that you have 4 guys that ran for 20-plus yards, this is where I like to see the improvement and progress. And I know this is going to piss off a lot of people, I have to see the positive in this. I see the negative. Yes, they lost. That's it. They're 0-2. There's no changing any of that. But if we're looking at what the hell they did from against a defense that was, yeah, you're right. They're pretty freaking stellar. They're probably going to be a college football playoff team against a lesser team in UNLV. To change that up in the second half, actually, I think one of them was in the first half, but I was kind of impressed with the run game, especially in the second half.
Well, Mike,
they kind of figured out how they wanted what they wanted to do.
I am happy that they had, guys that were able to break off some pretty decent sized runs. That is great. However, that's kind of my point against UNLV. They couldn't get any big giant chunk plays against a team that had given up nothing but chunk plays in their previous 2 games.
Yeah.
And it's fine. The Bruins, if you tell me the Bruins broke off 4 or 5 20, 30-yard runs against UNLV, I would say, yeah, no shit, they should have broken off like 10 of them, because that's how much dominance UCLA should have put over UNLV, especially given the way UNLV played in the 2 previous games. Where I'm really concerned with, and this is, Mike, we'll get into the offense and how broken or not broken it is. I actually am with you, I think, in having optimism about what this offense looks like. I think the offensive side isn't as far away for me as the defense is. I think the defense, I think it can improve, but I think it's really a long ways away right now. With the offense, it looks really good inside of 15 yards. Like, they do a lot of interesting stuff, and I think they're decent at moving the ball, in small little
and when
gains.
it was pressured. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we've seen some feedback from fans and people on the internet and stuff like that, talking about how, Nico's running for his life. Nico's not running for his life. There's times when he's pressured. There's times when he's taking sacks, but he's had time a lot of the time, and they look okay inside of 20 yards, but there's nothing down the field with this team. And so you can't go through a college football game, especially against UNLV, and not get big plays down the field. And they have none of that. And the opportunities that they've had were misses. And so, this is the main thing that I'm worried about with this offense. Nico is 1 for 8 on throws more than 20 yards down the field. He is only 48%. So he's 13 out of 26 or something like that, 13 out of 27, somewhere in that range on throws over 10 yards. Okay. He's got a decent percentage inside of 10 yards, and behind the line of scrimmage is good, but any throws down the field, the Bruins are woefully inaccurate right now. They're really they're bottom third in the country in those stats. And to me, that points to, that he just needs to be better in that particular. They have to be able to make these connections. Mikey Matthews seems to be a really dynamic receiver from this point. We've seen Quasi do this. I think Titus is pretty good as well, and they have to find a way to get more yards downfield and like loosen up this offense a little bit, because that's kind of it's just not going to get it done. That's what worries me most about this offense, Mike. What were you going to say?
I'm just going to push back a little because Nico, I think one of the biggest problems, obviously, is sometimes the offensive line wasn't there. It was not there in the first half. It wasn't that he was running for his life. It's just that the kind of pocket collapsed or he forced some throws. But the thing with the offense is that the thing with Nico is that I noticed he's really focusing on the middle of the field, about, mid-range, like 10, 15 yards. There were a lot of passes to that area. So that, that's one reason they're not going longer, because it seems like they're trying to nickel and dime their way down the field, which is fine because it actually did work. And, I joked about, Nico did good when it was under pressure, but it shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to, activate, superstar mode when you're under pressure or behind by 20 points. You should be effective just when, in the first quarter, when it's your first or second drive, when you have all the time in the world, when you can figure out what you want to do. But with that being said, he was pretty freaking on the ball. And we got to give it up to guys like Mikey Matthews, Staples, and Quasi Gilmer, especially down the stretch, when they realized, oh crap, we gotta make some plays, and they absolutely did. One of the things that really held them back, like really tail hooked them, to give a metaphor, was the fact that there were so many freaking penalties. I mean, there were like two on that last drive before Nico threw that last interception. Can you imagine the momentum they would have had if they didn't have those penalties? They weren't behind the 8 ball. They didn't have that. They had
both teams
would
were
have
taking
had 3 minutes,
but
rather
both teams
than
are taking
2
plenty
minutes.
of penalties. There are penalties on both sides.
True. Let UNLV have all the penalties. Let UNLV have all the penalties. That just helps UCLA. What doesn't help UCLA is having what 14 or 15 of their own. That was pretty ridiculous, and they got to reel that crap in. But that seems to be a problem in and out. Season year in and year out. But I do like how there were adjustments, and people are not, a lot of people that watch games. Let's say the casual fan doesn't really notice that. It's noticeable to guys like me and you and Bro and the LA Times and the OC Register, whoever's covering it, because they have to cover every single play. They have to cover every single practice. To people who are like, oh, well, let's see how this team does, you have to recognize that there was a lot of change in the second half. Like, God, I should have wrote the numbers down. I started to earlier, but UCLA's total offense and total defense was much different in the first half than the second half. I mean, I know you want to talk about the defense, and that worries you a bit, but even the defense, I liked what they were doing. They were bringing more pressure, especially off the edge. They substituted in what was his name, Deshaun Bennett, who was like in the backfield. I believe he got a sack, but he was also disrupting plays. It just looked a lot smoother. And if UCLA can encapsulate that and turn that into their next few games to start the game, that's going to be huge. If they can't, that's where I see where they will have problems, because Deshaun Foster's right. They need to start fast. They haven't started fast. They let UNLV bitch slap them for an entire half. They let Utah bitch slap them for an entire game. They have a much easier opponent in New Mexico this weekend.
We hope
UCLA needs to start off. Yeah, no, New Mexico is just not great.
Okay, New Mexico beat Mike. New Mexico beat Idaho State worse than UNLV beat Idaho State. Okay, we can't take anything for granted. Like, we hope, we think You know what? You talk all this stuff about how, the defense started getting Jeremy more pressure against UNLV and all that stuff. They had such a physical advantage over UNLV. It should have looked like that the whole game, and the fact that it didn't is extremely worrying. The fact that they were able in any version of the world to be on 23-0 to that team is unbelievable. I don't care if it's on the road. I don't care if UNLV was 2-0 before. It is really, really upsetting. And unless they dramatically improve on defense for the entire 60 minutes, number one, they're going to be in do I think they're going to lose to New Mexico? No, I don't. I still don't think they're going to lose to New Mexico. But now, they very easily could lose at Northwestern. They're going to lose at Penn State. We'll talk about the rest of the schedule after that. But it's you can't take anything for granted. They have to get a win in the victory column. And I don't think that what they did against UNLV in the second half is better than what it was in the first half. But it's not. I don't think they have anything quite figured out. I mean, UNLV was up 23-0 and squandered a lead because they were playing with a 23-0 lead. There's that too, and you saw just look at the NFL over the weekend, and you looked at all of these teams where all these games where teams were getting dominated for 2 or 3 quarters, and then the other team comes storming back. Look at Baltimore and Buffalo, Pittsburgh and the Jets, and I know that is pro football and this is college football, but at the end of the day, it's still all football, right? And just the fact that they were playing with this big lead, we're probably going to see some sort of comeback from the Bruins in this game, given the advantages they have over UNLV, unless they absolutely were DOA. And I'll give you that they're not DOA. They're not dead on arrival. I'm hoping they're still engaged, still going to play. But it is discouraging how they got their butts kicked by Utah, probably a good team, and then coming in and struggling as bad as this UNLV team. And like I'm saying, their game is, there's nothing, they can't get any yards downfield. So if that is going to be the case going forward, they're going to have a hard time scoring enough points to compete in almost any game because everything is so hard. They have to find a way to get some easy points on the board and move the ball down the field.
Mr. Merrifield, to paraphrase one Mr. Dan Aykroyd on Weekend Update, Jake, you ignorant slut.
Well, that's fine.
Did you not see what is going on? Especially watching the game a second time, being able to slow it down, see exactly where these guys came from. There was quite a change from this first half to the second half.
There was,
and that's what gives me hope. But
it's the hope that
if
kills
they
you.
would have played, obviously, in the first half, they probably would have won. They didn't figure anything out in the first game. They didn't figure out anything in the first half. And all of a sudden, the second half, they're all of a sudden real understanding how to tackle, how to be in good position. Because it wasn't just getting in the backfield, too. Because once they threw the ball downfield, yes, they had a few PIs, but there were some clean pass breakups. There were some clean route running defense. And just UCLA just getting into the backfield. What I saw in the second half was more of what we saw last year. And yeah, they don't have all the studs that they did last year. But if for anyone that listened, if you haven't listened to Akeka Malloy's meeting with the presser this week, I check it out because
what did he say?
He doesn't shy away. He doesn't shy away from question. He had 7 minutes of really good talk, but basically he didn't make any excuses. He said, we're not doing what we're supposed to. So that's why in the second half, for the game, he simplified the defense. He basically said, I didn't initiate this certain scheme. I initiated a scheme that I knew would work because of the personnel that we had. And that's when it started to get better. Because when he started to impose his defense, it just wasn't working. But when he played a simpler, I'm not going to say loosey-goosey, but something that was more adaptable to some of the guys, especially some of the new starters, some of the guys who played fewer minutes, it collectively worked. And they not only stood up the offensive line more than they did in the first half, but they got into the backfield more. They disrupted Calandria, to where he was, starting to make mistakes. And again, if it wasn't for another penalty, UCLA would have had that interception because of a bad
it was terrible.
throw by Calandria.
Not just an interception, pick six.
Pick six, 5 yards in. That
was a
would
big
have
play.
changed
That was
the
an absolutely
momentum of the
huge
game.
play.
But there was a freaking penalty. They got to clean up that stuff. But
Well, they
most
ruled him
part,
down on that play.
Yeah. But I'm. It's weird, depressed Gothic Mike who has anxiety issues and hates the world has to find positivity in something. Jake, I need this.
I know, but Mike,
but that's the thing. Like that, if I would have seen a flat,
if they wouldn't have come
even
back,
if it was just one of the teams, if they wouldn't have started to come back, this would have been just a horrible, just overall. This definitely would have been one of the worst losses in UCLA history, but they almost came back. Here's the thing. Here's both sad but hopeful. I was thinking, wow, if UCLA can score on this final drive and at the very least tie it, that would be such a comeback game since Washington State, which those are two teams that were not in contention for the Pac-12 title. But it just shows how much excitement we're lacking from a UCLA program, as well as how much they haven't been able to have that. Here's the thing: whether they were good or bad, in let's say the last decade, there have been very few games in which UCLA has maybe struggled, or maybe they were leading, or maybe they had to have a comeback, where there was that excitement, especially against a team they weren't expected to beat. There hasn't been that, and that brought about some emotions in this game about, first off, how fun comebacks are. If UCLA could pull this off, oh man, it would obviously be a different story, but it's not. They lost. They're 0-2. They got to deal with it. They got to move on. The team has to move on, but what does the fan base have to do? The fan base is pretty pissed off. The fan base is not happy. We could cut up every game and say, oh, there's progress here and that, but the big picture is that they're the only 0-2 Big Ten team. This is the first time they started 0-2 since Chip Kelly's second year. This is not great. But
you think?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I like to talk about progress, which you kind of have to talk about progress, especially when you're a cellar dweller. But they shouldn't be a cellar dweller. But that's from, oh my God, on the spaces on Saturday. There were people who were like, how do we get into the situation? Oh God, Deshaun Foster, Jarmon, Chip Kelly, blah, blah, blah. One guy went as far back as the Terry Donahue, the post Terry Donahue era. I was like, okay, I don't have that much beer in my fridge to consume to get into this conversation, but it just shows how deep some of these storylines run with different.
Sometimes hard to be Bruin, Mike.
Especially with different age groups. Yeah.
Well, look, you started your little jag here talking about the Bruins the second half and the TFLs and all that stuff. I just like to point this out. When we talked about this game before the game, and we're like the landmarks that the Bruins needed to hit with UNLV, they were all things that I was comparing UNLV to the woeful competition they had played going into this game, Sam Houston and Idaho State. And UCLA, Mike, you're talking about the TFLs. They ended up with how many TFLs in this game? A whopping three. Three TFLs in the game. You realize going into this game, UNLV had 12 TFLs before this? Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, they played better in the second half. Yeah, they only gave UNLV, they only had like 4 real drives, and 3 of them were like 3 and outs. But there was one drive that was 75 yards with a 20-yard play and a 30-yard play that scored a touchdown and sealed the game for them. It's still not good enough against it. They should have been dominating this team from the get-go, or at the very least, if they're going to be in a dogfight, it's going back and forth and all that stuff. But that's not what this was. This was UNLV coasting to a victory in the second half, even though the Bruins were coming back. UNLV did have that lead, and that did play into how they played, and how they called the game and all that stuff. That was a part of it, right? UNLV was trying to choke this game away after the Bruins because they had built a 23-0 lead. And that's why this goes down as one of the more depressing losses for me as a Bruin fan, because number one, whether we like it or not, we are a flag bearer for the stupid Big Ten. And to now have all these other Big Ten assholes looking at UCLA and saying, well, that's the first time that we lost to UNLV in 22 years. I don't want that as a fucking, a black mark on UCLA's record. When you look at what this UNLV team was, 2-0 or not, it was an embarrassing loss. When you look at how they lost to Utah and how this was the game in which they needed to bounce back and show something if they want to have any sort of stakes for this season, and by stakes I mean, getting to a bowl game even, right? Losing this game dramatically reduces their ability to get to a bowl game. Like, you have to concede that, right, Mike? I mean, that's going to be a really tough call.
God, definitely.
What are we talking about?
From our assessments, they're supposed to be 2-0 at this point, 4 games shy of being bowl eligible.
I think neither one of us would be surprised if they were 1-1 after this game, but we certainly thought they were going to be 1-1 or 2-0. We did not think 0-2 was a possibility, right?
No.
Yeah, absolutely true.
No.
So before we talk about the season going forward, Mike, I think we did a good job of kind of hashing out what this game was about and why I'm really depressed about it, why you are depressed about it, but maybe more hopeful than I.
I'm on happy meds about this program.
It's okay, but when you look at the game, though, now going forward, it's going to be pretty rough because they have this game against New Mexico, which we're hoping is going to be a victory, but once again, not guaranteed. They're an
Who's going to see it if a tree falls in the forest? Nobody can hear it.
Gonna watch it, yeah. And like you couldn't have more air let out of the program, but then when you go into the future schedule, this is what worries me about this, Mike. And then I guess I'll transition this into talking about the offense and the defense. I can see the offense getting dramatically better relatively soon if they figure out how to get the ball down the field. Nico has been under more pressure than other quarterbacks in the Big Ten or in the SEC or whatever. He's at like 40%, and like a better number is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 25 to 30%. A great number for like something like Dante Moore is like at 15%, just to put it into context. 40% is not a great pressure number, and so they need to do a better job protecting him. He needs to do a better job of getting the ball down the field effectively. They need to do a better job of staying on the field with a running attack. All three of those running backs, I think, have had their moments, but nobody's been dominant yet, and that goes back to the offensive line as well. But it's been I could see them getting that part figured out. Like I could see the offense being okay. On defense, I am really concerned because I'm assuming they're going to get better as the year goes on. But last year when they had Jay Toya in the middle and the dogs they had at linebacker, the guy they didn't even know they had, Carson Schlesinger, and then talk about
3 games in,
Femi Oladejo and all that stuff. It's like they ended up having some pretty mean dudes on that defense. And we knew Jay Toya was there going into the season. We're like, oh, thank God they kept him, all that stuff. And that allowed that defense to not just get better, but like become a pretty decent defense by the end of the year. I am worried that this defense, just because of the talent drain they've had over the last 2 years, I think they'll get better, but I don't know if they'll be good enough for the Bruins to compete in these games that we labeled as 50-50 games down the stretch. And that's my biggest concern. I really have faith that the defense coordinator, and you said you heard him talk today, Malloy, I think he will make them play better. I think he will get them to play better. I think he will get them to develop. But will they be able to get good enough? That's my main concern. How do you feel about that, Mike?
Going forward, I think this is why I like Malloy. I mean, it looked absolute trash, but today he took accountability.
Last year,
this is on me. Yeah, in fall camp. Yeah.
No, he cried after the
But-
after the Indiana game. I think it was great, and then they turned it around. You know, they played.
Oh, was
better.
it? I don't even remember.
It-
but-
dude, I love that guy. He's awesome. I hope they don't lose him.
No, I think he totally knows what he has to do, and yeah, especially like again, I'm paraphrasing when I say that Malloy said that he has to simplify. Okay, I'm really paraphrasing here. He said that when he found a scheme that worked, they were basically stuck in it because the other schemes they were trying to do wasn't working. The schemes that were working, it kind of limited him personnel-wise, but hell, it worked. And when he realized that scheme, he could insert other players to do this or that, started to work. So at the very least, he's not going, yeah, I don't know what happened. I can't figure anything out. He said, we found a way. We had to stick with it, and we're gonna build off of it. Hell, that's one way to start. You know, if you're a coach that goes, I don't know, that's never good. But this guy is always, and he doesn't back down. Today in his presser, he was talking about how he's just looking at different players, young guys, older guys, what's going to work, and that gives me a lot of confidence for the defense. Again, I know it's just one half. It's only 30 minutes in a season, but it was the last 30 minutes that we saw. So hopefully that can continue to the next game and not have any reiteration of what we saw in the first 6 quarters.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I'll just reiterate. I think he will make them better. I am concerned that they don't
Yeah.
Am I worried about them against New Mexico? I mean, not really. I'm joking about them. You know, they might lose this game. I mean, they could lose this game. It's theoretically possible now, where I would say it wasn't before, but they're still a 15-point favorite right now. You know, I mean, this really would be one of the bigger upsets in their history if they managed to lose this particular game at the Rose Bowl. But, you know, stranger things have happened, unfortunately. But we don't think they will, you know. But when you're going forward, I'm concerned that even if they schematically change things up, I thought that the 3 big dudes they had in the middle were going to be able to approximate some version of what Jay Toya gave them last year, the last number of years that he was with UCLA. So far, it doesn't look like they are up to the task. If that doesn't change, their defense is not going to be able to be as good as it has been the last couple of years. I thought that even though they lost Schlesinger and they lost Femi and they lost, who was your guy, Madrano, these guys that have been our favorites for the last number of years, or, came out of nowhere like Captain America Schlesinger, I thought they would be able to take the guys that they have and come up with some sort of approximation of that. They still might, but so far, not so good, but unless they get some sort of play sort of like that out of that front 7, they are not going to be looking very good, even against teams that aren't very good like Michigan State or Maryland. God help them when they go against Indiana, Ohio State, Penn State, and even Washington and even SC at this point. You'd have to say right now, SC has not looked as good as UCLA on the lines in a number of years, but this year, so far, I'm worried about that matchup, and that could be the difference between a win and a loss in these games where we labeled before as 50-50 games. I just don't know how much better they can get given the personnel limitations that they have right now. And this goes back to kind of the original sin of Deshaun Foster, which was, it sucks he got hired late, but him hitching his wagon to Bieniemy was a giant mistake. That if they would have had this offense last year, even without Nico, even with Ethan Garbers back there and his pop gun and all that stuff, they would have been so much better, and they would have gone to a bowl game. They would have probably won. They would have won at least 6, probably 7, and they would have such a different momentum going into this season. This is the season that they have to get over the hump on the bowl game side to have Deshaun Foster saying that he's making progress. But I just think they might be a little outgunned, especially on the defensive end this year. So unless that offense dramatically improves, I think they're in a world of hurt going down the stretch of this schedule, which is not as bad as last year, but is still plenty bad if your team is not, good enough to win 50-50 games. And I'm not sure the Bruins are going to be good enough to win 50-50 games this year. And that's what worries me most. And that's what makes me very depressed about it.
No, you're not wrong. Until they prove that they can play full 4 quarters, if they okay, I will say this. I do attach some hope to going from, oh God, they're crap in the first quarter to the crap in the first half to, wow, look at the progress in the second half. If they do that at least for the next 4 games, that's just going to wear thin, and like nobody's going to care, especially if there are L's attached to the end of that. Yeah, sure they have progress, but learn to start a game. Learn to start, on fire. Make a touchdown on your first drive. Make a touchdown on your second drive. Stop a team on their first drive until they can do that. I am with you on that part. Yeah, I'm not going to blow smoke up everybody's asses by saying, oh, there's progress, because if they can't start any of these games on fire, then that puts them at risk for they could come back, or they put forth a valiant effort. Yeah, nobody cares about valiant efforts anymore. This isn't the 50s where we're just trying to go out to a football game and have a good time on a Saturday night. We're fully invested in this stuff, and especially in the NIL era, there are multiple people invested in this stuff. Who is going to want to come to UCLA if they can't even beat a team that they're expected to beat by 3 points? It's going to be weird. I'm sure the recruits that have committed to UCLA are weighing their decisions, but none of them have decommitted at this point. I'm sure they're going to wait for a few more. If UCLA loses 4 out of the next 5, that's going to have some changes in attitude. But if they show some progress, if they can win some games, you're not only going to retain those commitments, you're probably going to get more of the targets that you're aiming for.
Okay, well, Mike, here, stop there. Okay, let's go down the schedule then, and I want you to tell me the games in which you are confident right now that the Bruins will get a victory, because I'm, 1 is the loneliest number right now for me, because I'm confident in exactly 1 game left on the Bruins schedule that they will get a victory. I don't know how you stack up, but I am confident.
Oh, well, yeah.
I'm going to go down the list. So,
yeah.
Just listen and then talk. I'll give you the games and you tell me yes or no. New Mexico, I'm confident they're going to win. You?
Yes, win.
Me too.
Win.
At Northwestern, I am no longer confident. And unfortunately for me, this was a game I was confident before the season. And now I look at Northwestern and one other game on the schedule as the only 50-50 games on the schedule for me right now based on how they're playing. So you're confident they're going to get a win in Northwestern.
Oh, yeah.
Where's that confidence coming from, Mike?
You get that. I don't know. There's something about Lake Michigan. You breathe in that air. If you're at Northwestern, you're used to it. You're probably just taking it for granted. UCLA is going to come in there in their shoddy ass field, and I'm not going to say they're going to surprise anybody, because if they win against Northwestern, nobody's going to care. No. That's something that UCLA should do, but I think they will do.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask you about Penn State. We both know they're not winning that game.
They're not winning that game.
Are you confident the Bruins will beat Sparty at Michigan, in Michigan, in East Lansing?
Not as much as I was, but Michigan State hasn't really been explosive enough for me to go, yeah, they're going to blow out UCLA. And that's the thing. Blowing out, I'm saying, if I think a team will blow out UCLA,
confident the Bruins will win. I'm not. Look, this is more than a 50-50 game. This is not they're going to get blown. This is UCLA will win that game. Are you confident UCLA is going to go to Michigan and win that game?
No.
That's my point. Okay, so there you go. So how about home at the Rose Bowl to Maryland?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a 50-50 game now. That's how down I am right now on the prospects. So so that's 3 for Mike. That's 1 for me so far. Okay, at Indiana.
No.
Oh, hell's to the no, right? How about
no? Absolutely not.
Home to Nebraska.
No.
Absolutely not, right? How about
no
at Ohio State?
No.
Don't think so. How about home to the Huskies?
No.
Confident in Bruin
That's
victory.
A reluctant no.
Confident
That's a reluctant no.
Right?
Yeah.
And then last
exactly.
on the schedule is at SC. Confident in Bruin victory.
They're gonna beat USC 73-10.
Okay, good. So I'm going to give Mike a mark for that, and I'm going to stay at 1. So that's like one of those is a smirking from Mike. So I'm going to get it.
That is not a no. That's not a 50-50. That's a if you've developed and you're lucky enough to get a win against USC, who is proven to have a lot more firepower on offense, even though they played against cupcakes. We're going to find out what this USC team can do as they play.
I don't think
Purdue
USC's great either,
Michigan
Mike.
State.
Yeah, I don't think USC's great either. But what I'm saying is I'm just
They're
going on
better than
schedule.
UCLA.
Yeah, it looks like they are.
Yeah, I'm saying it.
But
Yeah, it sucks that I'm saying it, but
so looking at the schedule, then the Bruins are 0-2 right now, and I'm going to give you like 3.5 for your marks for what you said. You're predicting the Bruins to win to have 3.5 easy wins on the schedule at this point, which means that to get to a bowl, they're going to have to win 2.5 of these 50-50 games right now.
Yeah.
For me, there's one easy game left on the schedule, and everything else at best is a 50-50 coin flip shot. So
yeah,
would I be surprised with 1-11 right now? Unfortunately, no, I wouldn't. Would I be surprised with 3-9 right now? Oh, hell no, I wouldn't. I'd probably peg 3-9, 4-8 as probably what they're going to be. And if that is the case, and we don't know if that's going to be the case because they got 10 games left, they could play much better. They could win some games. They could beat Maryland and Nebraska and Washington, USC, yada, 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 and make it all happy fun again, at least to a degree. But, Mike, if they go 4-8 or 3-9, is that enough?
That's my next question to you. Next question to you.
Do we have a regime change at that point or not?
I don't see why not, because it has happened before. Yeah, but traditionally you have to give a coach at least 3 years. But in the last 10, we've seen that some schools are like, yeah, no, we're not seeing any progress. You got to go.
In this case, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're still talking.
No, I'm talking, but I'm in mid-thought. I'm thinking about one thing, then all of a sudden another thought hits, and I was like, no. I'm basically contradicting myself in the moment. Yeah, if this team, let's say this team only bowl eligibility, 6 wins, seems tough. If they make it, Deshaun should be retained.
Mike, if they go to a bowl game, I guarantee you, Mike, if they go to a bowl game, Deshaun Foster's not getting fired. There's no possible way. That'd be an improvement on last season. We're not talking about an improvement on last season. We're talking about what if he does not live up to last season even, and he's 4-8, 3-9. Okay.
Oh, even if he goes 5-7, that should be. I think there should be some discussions about whether this is going in the right direction or not. And here's the thing. I heard yesterday that on December 1st, if they fired Deshaun Foster before December 1st, they have to pay. So his what? Oh God, what was it? I hope I'm not pulling numbers out of my ass, but 5-year contract for $70 million, I think it is. No, 70? No, that doesn't seem right. Anyway, that's not the important part.
Guarantee it's not 70 million.
It is not 70 million. Because he's like making $3 million, so I'm thinking it's maybe 20 million. Anyway, on December 1st, if they fire him before then, they have to pay him 70% of what he's guaranteed. On December 2nd, that goes down to 60%, from what I remember. More doable. It's not the whole Mora or Chip Kelly buyout, but at that point, if you do have to pull the trigger, you might have to pull the trigger. But that should light a fire underneath Foster and Sinceri and Malloy that this hasn't been going well. We're 0-2. If we don't at least make 6 wins, nobody's going to have a job in Westwood. That should be something that really motivates, forget motivating the players. The coaches need to be motivated.
Mike, at this point, saying they're going to go to a bowl game means they're going to go 6-4 throughout the rest of the season. I think that is a pipe dream.
That's going to be rough.
That's a pipe dream at this point. I think that though, to what you're just saying, like if they went 5-7 on the season, that means they finish right now 5-5. And I don't think that Foster gets fired at 5-5 either. I think that there's plenty of reasons to keep around if they go 500 with the remaining slate. and they could point to all the change they made and all yada yada yada. No one's gonna be happy with it, but I don't think they're gonna fire him. But if they go sub, if they go 4-8, if they go 3-9, or worse than that, which I think is entirely possible at this point, I don't think it's fair to Deshaun Foster to fire him after basically a year and 3 quarters on the job, because he didn't even really get a full first season. But at the same time, given the state of the fan base, the state of the program in general, and then the fact that you followed up a year where you kind of underwhelmed, even though, they had their moments, with another year that's even less whelming, right? I don't see how you can keep that around for another year at that point. And that's kind of just where I'm standing. Do I hope that happens? Oh, hell no. I wish that Deshaun Foster, who I know cares about this program, would have a fair shake with this program. But I don't think that's in the cards. And that kind of was what the deal was when Chip Kelly leaves like a thief in the night and Deshaun Foster gets hired with no head coaching experience whatsoever. Okay. Unfortunately, they gave him this big opportunity without having any experience as the head coach. And I think part of that deal is, you know what? We don't really, the school, the university, after giving you the shot, they don't really deserve to give him a fair shot, honestly. It's kind of an experiment coming off of a very last minute decision by the former head coach to leave in an unprecedented move to go in the same conference to a coordinator spot. They were kind of scrambling because they failed to act with Chip Kelly. They don't owe Deshaun Foster 3 years, 4 years, or whatever to develop the program he wants, because he was kind of a last minute hire to begin with. And that's just kind of the sad state of affairs, in my opinion. And it sucks for Foster, but if he doesn't, the trajectory they're on right now is a flat line. And unless it dramatically shifts, I don't see how they can keep him around unless they are, ready to just call a curtain for the whole program. And now Indiana gets to be cool and ranked. And now UCLA gets to be the new Indiana of the Big Ten. Because that's where we're heading right now. We are firmly headed towards Purdue, UCLA, perennial bottom dwellers of this new Big Ten conference. Gee whiz, I guess we don't care about football. Let's wait for basketball season. That's what they're in danger of becoming with these sorts of, with this sort of record and this kind of showing. And it didn't have to be like that, but unfortunately that's the way it's lining up. And that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's not great, Jake. It's not great.
Thank you.
And it could have been. No, I know you just said, like, I really can't add to what you say, because you're not just looking at the record, you're not looking at the team, you're looking at the optics of it. And Bruin fans are pretty freaking pissed. This could be an entirely different podcast, but do Bruin fans have the right to be pissed? We're chasing one championship that was over 50 years ago. We're chasing success,
70.
which we haven't seen in like over 20 years. We needed to do an entire podcast on that. But I get it too, because it's UCLA. It should easily be a haven for college football dominance, for 4 and 5 stars to come and play just quality football at a high class university, which is right by the freaking beach and has just great weather. It's not like Ann Arbor,
great
where
optics.
the last third of your season is covered in snow. Yeah, what? We don't even get snow. We barely get rain here. You're going to have a 70-degree final game of the season. How is UCLA football not capitalizing on any of this? That is the greater optics, which you just brought up, and that's just something that not just Foster has to deal with, but Jarman and to an extent, my homie Julio Frank. By the way, we're homies. I don't know if you know that, but being all Latino and stuff. But yeah, I got to get a one-on-one with him and go, yo, what's up, bro? What's going on here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Also, can we get more funding for the psychology department? Those are my people.
Nice, Mike. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I don't want to spend a lot of time in New Mexico. We think they're going to win. The game that will be. I already gave the trivia. Let's do the trivia real quick.
Now
All right,
it's
cool.
time for Jake's Trivia, brought to you by Jake, bringing you all the coolest trivia of UCLA football's opponent for this coming week. And now, Jake.
Mike,
I'm still here, baby.
I know. Guess who kicked our what team did the guy who kicked our ass in week 1 play for last year?
Oh, New Mexico.
Yeah, that guy. That's the trivia. Like, whatever. The Bruins are 15.5-point favorites. I'm done with this. I'm. By the way, guess, Mike.
Jake, what's the state tie?
I don't know. The Bolo tie. Sure.
Bolo. Oh no, that was
That's
Arizona. Sorry. Anyway.
This game is 7:00. It's at the Rose Bowl. It's on a Friday night. No one's going to be there. It's on the Big Ten Network.
I'll be there, Jefe.
Yeah, you are. You and Dez and nobody else. But it's look. The Bruins have to go to this game. They have to win the game. We'll see how much they win the game by. If they lose the game, it will be one of the most embarrassing losses in school history, which follows one of the most embarrassing losses in school history, which follows one of the most embarrassing losses in school history. Like that just can't happen. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't think it will. But they're taking on the Lobos. They need to win. And that's really all we can say about this game. I would like to see the Bruins have multiple plays of 30-plus yards in this game. That's what I'd like to see. I would like to see the Bruins have at least 8 tackles for a loss at a minimum.
Guaranteed.
At a minimum. Okay? I would like to see the Bruins score at least 40 points. I would like to see the Bruins not give up more than 15 points. I
Guaranteed.
think in a normal season, that would be modest and conservative predictions for this game. The fact that
would be expected.
We have no idea if they will hit those modest benchmarks says everything we need to know about how this team has played so far. And Mike, like I said, we talked doom and gloom for an hour. I still could see this team getting better. I still think about this team the way I thought about them before the season. I think the offense really has the potential to be pretty good. The defense I'm worried about, but I really believe in their coordinator. But it has to start here. And it has to start with just wipe the slate clean. Let's kick the shit out of the freaking Lobos and move on to this game against Northwestern and just get out there and get off the schneid and get a freaking notch in the win column. Mike, how do you feel about this game?
I think they figure some stuff out, and just I know looking at New Mexico, you compare common opponents. They had a better win against Idaho State than UNLV, and they lost to UNLV. But I just don't think this New Mexico team is tested, and I think they're going to come up against an angry Bruin team. At that point, they need to be bear aware, because UCLA is going to come out scratching on both sides of the ball, and I have UCLA winning this 35-10. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm predicting a Bruin victory. I'm not going to do scores anymore. I don't give a crap about stupid predictions.
I need a score, Jake.
A win.
The people on the social medias
1-0
need to know.
1-0.
What? God damn you, Jake. That's not possible.
1-0.
It's not possible.
1-0.
It's not at least say 2-0. That's possible.
No.
I'm gonna put some random numbers on here for you.
You better not. My prediction is
what
1-0.
What is your prediction? No,
Bruins.
That's not possible.
Huh?
That's not possible. 3-0. You're picking UCLA 3-0. Money bags.
Then make it 2.
Hits a 70-yarder.
Make it 2-0.
Jake, I'm worried about you. Your depression levels are higher than they've ever been. I'm worried.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. All right, Mike. Here, it's we've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes about this nonsense. We're gonna shut the show down right now, and then I'm gonna do the call segment, and then I'll attach what's brewing to that. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll have a shorter show and then a longer show.
Fine.
So, Mike, until next time, what do we say?
Maybe don't really want to know.
Play the guitar with it. Play the chorus.
Wait.
Play the chorus.
Wait, what happened?
Play the guitar too, and then sing.
Maybe I don't want. Oh, sorry. Anyway, I'm
That's a
a
guitar.
little beyond.
All
It's
Say go
over
Bruins.
there just hanging out. Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Oh my God.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, Rob, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.